Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most explosive and deeply emotional updates from the world of daytime television. Today is a magnificent day to dive into a storyline that is guaranteed to leave you breathless. We are unpacking a monumental twist of fate that redefines loyalty, sacrifice, and the haunting power of the past. Let's explore this incredible journey together. For weeks, the atmosphere surrounding Carter Walton and Daphne Rose Walton has been suffocating, drenched in the silent, agonizing weight of unfulfilled dreams. The sprawling, beautifully decorated rooms of their shared home have become nothing more than a haunting reminder of the one thing they desperately desire but cannot seem to attain: a child. The journey to parenthood, which began with such radiant optimism and boundless love, has slowly deteriorated into a grueling marathon of negative pregnancy tests, sterile doctors' offices, and whispered, heartbreaking condolences. Carter, a man who has built his entire life on the pillars of stability, loyalty, and the fierce desire to protect his loved ones, has tried valiantly to remain the steadfast anchor for his wife. He has offered endless reassurance, masking his own profound disappointment behind a brave, unwavering smile. But the cracks in their foundation have begun to show, threatening to shatter the beautiful life they have built together. The psychological toll of this infertility battle cannot be overstated, as it has systematically dismantled Daphne's sense of self-worth. She has found herself trapped in a relentless cycle of hope and despair, every passing month bringing a fresh wave of heartbreak that chips away at her spirit and leaves her feeling hollow. She looks at Carter, a man who possesses an infinite reservoir of paternal love just waiting to be tapped, and feels an agonizing guilt that she cannot be the vessel for his ultimate happiness. The conversations about alternative routes, including the endless bureaucratic and emotional hurdles that accompany surrogacy and adoption, have only added to the heavy burden resting on her fragile shoulders. She knows that Carter would never abandon her, that his vows were spoken with absolute sincerity, but the fear of resentment is a toxic seed that has already been planted deep within her mind. She imagines a future where the silence of their home eventually drives an insurmountable wedge between them. It is against this backdrop of profound vulnerability and quiet desperation that the universe decides to deliver a shockwave of biblical proportions. The scene unfolds on an evening that feels remarkably ordinary, the kind of quiet Los Angeles night that perfectly belies the explosive drama brewing just beneath the surface. Carter and Daphne are wrapped in the fragile comfort of their living room, perhaps trying to find solace in each other's presence after yet another emotionally draining day of discussing medical appointments and shattered expectations. And then, the heavy silence is shattered by a sudden, urgent knock at the front door. It is a sound that will forever demarcate the boundary between their old life and the terrifying new reality they are about to enter. When Carter approaches the door, completely unaware of the monumental shift about to occur, the audience is collectively holding its breath, anticipating the arrival of a storm that will change the canvas forever. The heavy wooden door swings open, and the breath is violently snatched from the room as an impossible apparition steps into the light. Standing on the threshold, illuminated by the pale, unforgiving glow of the porch, is a ghost from the past. It is a woman whose name has been spoken only in hushed, mournful tones over the last few months, whose tragic demise had sent shockwave through the entire community and cast a dark cloud of suspicion over characters like Melissa Dillon. Luna Nozawa is alive. The sheer impossibility of the sight is enough to paralyze both Carter and Daphne in a state of profound, mind-altering shock. For months, the narrative surrounding Luna has been one of pure tragedy and unresolved mystery. The world believes she was dead, a victim of a cruel and untimely fate, her absence leaving a gaping wound in the lives of those who knew her. Yet here she stands, breathing, trembling, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and desperate resolve. But it is not merely the miraculous, inexplicable resurrection of Luna Nozawa that sends the room into an absolute tailspin. It is the fragile bundle she is holding in her arms, clutched tightly to her chest, wrapped in a simple, unassuming blanket, is a newborn baby. The visual impact of this moment is staggering, hitting with the force of a runaway freight train. The woman who is supposed to be resting in a grave is standing in the living room of a couple desperately yearning for a child, holding the very manifestation of their deepest, most unattainable desire. The irony of the situation is so thick, so incredibly cruel, that it feels like a physical blow to Daphne's chest. She stares at the infant, then at Luna, her mind desperately trying to reconcile the impossibility of the scene unfolding before her eyes. The silence that follows is deafening, broken only by the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping infant and the erratic, panicked gasps of Luna herself. When Luna finally speaks, her voice is a fragile, fractured whisper, carrying the immense weight of untold horrors and unimaginable sacrifices. She begins to weave a tale that is as harrowing as it is unbelievable, pulling Carter and Daphne into a dark, terrifying world they never knew existed. Luna explains the circumstances of her supposed death, revealing that it was an elaborate, desperate ruse designed to protect the most precious thing in her life. She had discovered she was pregnant, and almost simultaneously realized that she and her unborn child were in grave, imminent danger from a threat so severe she dared not speak its name. To reveal the specifics of the danger would be to invite total destruction. So Luna made the agonizing, heartbreaking decision to vanish into the shadows. She let the world mourn her. She let her loved ones weep for her. Also that her baby could have a chance at life away from the crosshairs of her unknown enemies. Luna describes the grueling months of hiding, the constant, suffocating fear of discovery that haunted her every waking moment, and the solitary, terrifying experience of giving birth in absolute secrecy. Every word she speaks paints a vivid, heartbreaking picture of a mother's ultimate sacrifice, a narrative perfectly designed to elicit maximum sympathy and completely disarm her audience. But the most crucial element of Luna's story, the pivot upon which this entire twisted scenario turns, is her reason for coming to Carter. Out of all the people in Los Angeles, out of all the sprawling, powerful families and vast resources available to her, she chose him. Luna looks directly into Carter's eyes, her expression a masterclass in vulnerability and desperate trust, and explains that he is the only man she has ever truly believed in. She speaks of his unwavering integrity, his profound capacity for love, and his innate, undeniable goodness that has always set him apart from the ruthless manipulators of their world. She knows, perhaps better than anyone, that Carter is a fierce protector, a man who would move heaven and earth to ensure the safety and happiness of an innocent child. In Luna's eyes, Carter represents the ultimate safe haven, the impenetrable fortress where her baby can grow up shielded from the darkness that forced her into hiding. She makes it abundantly clear that she is not asking for money, nor is she seeking shelter for herself. She is offering him the ultimate, priceless gift. She is asking Carter to take her child, to claim it as his own, to raise it with the boundless love and devotion she knows she cannot provide while she remains a moving target. As Luna's desperate plea hangs heavily in the air, the camera pans to Daphne, capturing a devastating portrait of a woman whose soul is being systematically dismantled piece by piece. The psychological horror of Daphne's predicament is entirely unparalleled. She is standing mere feet away from the woman who was once her fierce rival, a woman who possesses a complex, tangled history with the people in their orbit, and this woman is casually offering Carter the one thing Daphne has been agonizingly unable to give him. It is a cosmic joke of the cruelest, most unforgiving variety. Daphne's mind races, a chaotic whirlwind of conflicting emotions threatening to tear her apart from the inside out. She sees the raw, unadulterated longing flare in Carter's eyes as he looks at the tiny, fragile bundle in Luna's arms. It is the look of a man who has just been handed the keys to the kingdom, a man who is staring at the sudden, miraculous manifestation of his deepest, most fervent prayers. And in that look, Daphne sees her own potential obsolescence, a terrifying glimpse into a future where she is no longer enough for the man she loves. The dilemma facing Daphne in this agonizing moment is not merely difficult. It is fundamentally devastating. She is trapped in an impossible paradox, a lose-lose scenario that requires her to sacrifice a vital piece of her own identity regardless of what path she chooses. On one hand, she can firmly refuse. She can stand her ground, assert her boundaries, and outright reject the child of her former rival. She can logically argue that bringing Luna's baby into their home is a recipe for absolute disaster, a constant, living reminder of a complicated past and a potential magnet for whatever lethal danger Luna is fleeing. But she knows, with a terrifying, bone-chilling certainty, that if she says no, she will permanently extinguish the brilliant light that has just reignited in her husband's eyes. The resentment would be immediate, profound, and entirely incurable. Carter might comply with her wishes out of duty, but a part of him would always mourn the child he was forced to turn away. That silent, festering mourning would inevitably poison the well of their marriage, transforming their home into a tomb of unspoken regrets. The rejection would be the final, fatal blow to a relationship already strained to the breaking point by the heavy, suffocating burden of infertility. On the other hand, the alternative is almost equally unbearable to contemplate. To accept this child means to invite Luna Nozawa permanently into the psychological fabric of their family. Even if Luna disappears back into the shadows tonight, her ghost will linger forever in the baby's eyes, in the baby's smile, in the very blood that pumps through the child's veins. Daphne would be committing to raising the child of a woman she once viewed as an adversary, constantly grappling with the deep-seated insecurities and the gnawing feeling that she is merely a substitute mother, a convenient placeholder in a story that truly belongs to Luna and Carter. The daily act of mothering this child would require Daphne to swallow her pride, to bury her own ego, and to perform an act of supreme, painful grace that borders on the superhuman. The tension in the room reaches an excruciating, dizzying climax as Carter turns to Daphne, his eyes pleading silently, communicating a lifetime of hope and desperation in a single glance. He does not speak, he does not pressure her with words, but the desperate hope radiating from him is a physical force that pins Daphne to the spot. The silence stretches, heavy and pregnant with the immense weight of 1,000 unspoken fears. Daphne looks at Luna, searching the other woman's exhausted face for any sign of malice, any hint of a hidden agenda. But all she sees is the terrified facade of a mother on the run. Then, Daphne looks down at the baby. The tiny, innocent face is completely oblivious to the massive emotional warfare raging above it. And finally, she looks back at Carter. She sees the man she loves with every fiber of her being, the man she vowed to stand beside in sickness and in health, the man whose heart is currently breaking and healing simultaneously in the span of a single heartbeat. In a moment of profound, heartbreaking clarity, Daphne makes her monumental choice. She realizes that her love for Carter is vastly greater than her pride, greater than her crippling fear, and far greater than her lingering resentment toward Luna. If this is the only conceivable way to make him whole, if this is the only way to save their marriage from the slow, agonizing death of unfulfilled longing, then she will bear the heavy burden. She will take the child. She will become the mother this baby desperately needs, and she will give Carter the beautiful family he deserves, even if the foundation of that family is built on the smoldering ashes of her own deep-seated insecurities. The words, when they finally escape her trembling lips, are barely more than a breathless whisper, but they carry the unstoppable force of a tectonic shift. She says yes. She agrees to the adoption. She agrees to take Luna's child and raise it as a Walton, forever altering the trajectory of all their lives. The immediate aftermath of Daphne's declaration is a chaotic, overwhelming symphony of relief and unspoken dread. Carter's reaction is visceral. He practically collapses under the immense weight of his own gratitude, hot tears streaming down his face as he reaches out with trembling hands to take the baby from Luna's arms. The moment Carter holds the child against his chest, the transformation is instantaneous and breathtaking. The heavy, suffocating aura of despair that had clung to him for months evaporates entirely, replaced by a radiant, overwhelming joy. He is a father. The miracle he had prayed for has finally arrived. He looks at Daphne with a reverence that borders on religious worship, silently thanking her for the monumental, selfless sacrifice she has just made for his happiness. But while Carter is bathed in the warm, golden light of newfound fatherhood, Daphne finds herself standing in the cold, encroaching shadows of her own mind. Luna's departure is as swift and dramatically abrupt as her arrival. Having secured the safety of her precious child, she offers a tearful, hurried goodbye, her eyes lingering on the baby for one agonizing, heartbreaking second before she turns and vanishes back into the unforgiving night, swallowed by the darkness that brought her. The door clicks shut, sealing the baby safely inside the Walton home and locking the danger, presumably, outside. But the reality of the situation is far more complicated and insidious than a simple locked door. As Daphne watches Carter softly coo and whisper promises to the infant, a profound, chilling sense of isolation washes over her. As the initial, adrenaline-fueled shock begins to wear off and the stark reality of their new situation sets in, the tiny seed of doubt that was planted in Daphne's mind during Luna's desperate plea begins to sprout, sending dark, twisting roots deep into her fragile psyche. Was Luna actually telling the truth? The story of a mysterious, unnamed danger forcing her to fake her own death and abandon her child is undeniably compelling. But in the treacherous, highly manipulative world of Los Angeles, compelling stories are very often the most dangerous lies. Daphne's analytical mind, sharpened by years of navigating the complex social and corporate dynamics of her ruthless environment, cannot help but dissect the bizarre encounter. Why Carter? Yes, he is a remarkably good man, but is that truly the only reason? Is it entirely possible that Luna's choice was not born out of desperate trust, but out of a coldly calculated, malicious strategy? The paralyzing fear that begins to gnaw relentlessly at Daphne's mind is a terrifying, insidious monster that refuses to be silenced. She starts to wonder if this entire heartbreaking scenario is actually an elaborate Trojan horse, a brilliant, devastating scheme meticulously designed to infiltrate her home and destroy her marriage from the inside out. By giving them the child, Luna has permanently and irrevocably tethered herself to Carter. She has created an unbreakable, biological link that will forever tie her to the Walton family, a bond that Daphne can never replicate. What if the deadly danger she spoke of is entirely fabricated? What if she is simply waiting patiently in the wings for the right moment to return, to dramatically reclaim her child, and to stake a permanent claim on the man who is raising it? Daphne realizes with a sickening, terrifying jolt that she may have just willingly invited the enemy into her most sacred sanctuary. Every time she looks at the innocent baby, she will be forcefully reminded of Luna. Every time Carter smiles at the child, Daphne will be tortured by the thought that he is secretly thinking of the woman who gave it to him. The joy of motherhood, which she had craved so desperately for so long, is now heavily tainted by the constant, suffocating fear of an impending, catastrophic betrayal. She is playing the role of the loving, devoted mother to perfection, but beneath the carefully constructed surface, she is a woman at war, fighting a phantom enemy that may or may not exist. The emotional exhaustion of maintaining this flawless facade while simultaneously battling her own dark, consuming suspicions threatens to push Daphne to the absolute brink of her sanity. As we look ahead, The tension within the Walton household is guaranteed to reach a terrifying boiling point, setting the stage for one of the most psychological